Hello, this is Kate from Kate Various Designs, and today we are going to learn how to knit the Bolena headband. Remember that you can find the pattern as a blog post for free on katevariousdesigns.com/blog, and you can find the timestamps down in the description box. Enjoy! Okay, so we are gonna start with the cast on, and to start with we're gonna do a slip knot, and we are going to use the slip knot as one stitch, and we're going to cast another stitch using the long tail cast on method. So there we have our two stitches, and now we are going to move one of those stitches to the second double pointed needle, being careful not to unravel the stitch, none of the stitches. So there we have them, and now we are going to increase these two stitches into two. So we are going to do the knit front and back twice, once on each of the stitches, and we're going to end up with 4 stitches to knit the first tie of our headband. So make sure to tighten up the stitches so nothing bad happens, but if it does, don't worry about it, everything's going to be all right. You can do this a few times. Here you can see me that I'm wobbling a little bit, but don't you worry, it's going to be fine. So to knit front and back, you first knit through the front loop of the stitch, and then you knit through the back loop of that stitch, of that very same stitch. And remember, like, not to drop the stitch while you are knitting it. So again, we knit through the front loop. Make sure to take the stitch to the very tip of the needle so you can do it properly. We knit the stitch without dropping it from the left hand needle, and now we're going to knit it through the back loop, and now we drop it. So now we have 4 stitches. There we go, there they are, and they look neat and pretty. So now we're going to use 3 needles, 3 double pointed needles, to knit our cord, and you can put a stitch marker to mark the beginning of the round, to make things clearer so you never forget, so you don't lose count of the rows that you have to knit, because that's kind of important. It's also very important, I mean, it's more important the length that you want, which is specified on the pattern, which you can find on the link below. But also, if you like to count the rows, which I personally prefer, I think that's also a good idea. And also, I mean, honestly, the difference is not that much, but like if you start in the wrong, like if you don't start at the beginning of the row, but anyway, I think it's a good idea, like, to mark at the beginning of the row, just because, like, if you're like strict about your knitting the way I am a little bit, then I enjoy that better. So there we go, we start knitting all the stitches in all the rounds. That's gonna create a stockinette stitch, and we are going to do this until we reach the desired length of our tie. In this case, the desired length for our tie is 12 inches or 25 centimeters, and we just reached it. Now what we're going to do is increase our 4 stitches to 8 in order to create the strips for each of our plait. So we're going to increase stitches again with the knit front and back into each of the stitches. That means that we are going to do knit front and back 4 times in total, 1 in each of the stitches that we have on our needles. So here is giving me a little bit of trouble, but I finally get it. Don't you worry, like, do it slowly and you will get there. The first one is always the hardest one, so don't you worry about it. We have 4 now, 4 stitches instead of the 2 that we had. Now we're going to do 2 extra more. So we knit through the front loop without slipping the stitch of the left hand needle, and now we knit through the back loop, and there we go. Now we slip it off, knit through the front, knit through the back, and there we go. We have our 8 stitches to start knitting the strips for our braid or our plaid, depending on where you are. We are going to need an extra round for stabilizing all the stitches, let's say. So we are going to need 8 stitches. There we have 4 and 5, 6, 7 and 8. Perfect. So what we're going to do now is start with the strips for our plaid. And what we're going to do is use 2 stitches to start our first strip. So let's begin. We're going to knit front and back into one of the stitches, into the first stitch. Knit through the front and knit through the back. And now for the second one, knit through the front and knit through the back. Carefully, slowly, there is no hurry. And the remaining 6 stitches, we are going to slip them into an auxiliary needle, into a spare needle, sorry. And those stitches are for strips number 2, 3 and 4. For now, we're going to leave them on a double pointed needle, but you can later pass them, like, because it's easier. But later you can place them on a spare needle or on a stitch holder or on a scrap of yarn if you want. Now what we're going to do is slip the last 2 stitches that we made into another needle, another pointed needle, and we are going to join in the round for the first strip. So now you have there the 4th stitch, and now we're going to start knitting in the round again. So we're going to knit all the stitches in this round, sorry. So we need 2 stitches, and we're going to knit the 3rd and the 4th stitches. At this point, I recommend you to keep track of the rounds very specifically, because we want all the stripes of the plaid to be the exact same length. So please keep track of the rounds. Once you have knitted the recommended amount of rounds, we're going to start in creases, and we're going to start with a make one right. To do that, insert the left hand needle under the strand in between the first and the second stitches, and knit the stitch through the loop in the front. And you can see that there is like a twist on the stitch, which prevents there to be any holes on the knitting. And keep working the increases as instructed by the pattern. Once you have knitted enough and do all the increases, now we're going to start doing the decreases. And first we're going to learn how to do the knit two together decrease. So it's very easy, just knit 2 stitches as if you were going to knit 1, and there you go, you knit 2 stitches and it becomes 1 stitch. And we're going to do that twice, the first time and every time. So we knit 5 stitches here, 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, not 5 but 4, and then we knit the 2 stitches that we had together, through both of them through the front loop. And there we go. So that's the first decrease that we have. And we also have the slip knit decrease, which we're going to see now how to do it. So that one we're going to do at the beginning of the round. So we slip 1 stitch, we slip the other, and we knit them together. Remember to slip the stitches knitwise. That means as if you are going to knit the stitch, so you change the direction of the front loop. Let's see it again. We're going to slip the stitch, so we slip it knitwise, and then we knit them both together without changing the direction that we already changed. And there you go. Now follow the instructions on the pattern on when to do it. Finally, once you have made all the decreases and knitted all the rounds that you needed, we are going to leave these stitches on hold for the first stripe. This time we're going to use a strap of yarn, and what I'm going to do here is just thread the strand into tapestry needle, and with the help of the tapestry needle we are going to weave the strand in to the stitches so we don't lose them, because that would be bad. So let's do that. We are going to tie a knot so they are fully secured. There we go. And now we are going to start with the next strips of the plaid. And to do so, what we are going to do is pick up the next 2 stitches that we left on the spare needle or the stitch holder. So there we go. We're going to pick them up and place them on the working needle and leave the other 4 stitches on hold. Now we are going to join the yarn and we are going to knit front and back twice, making 2 stitches into 4. So there we go. Knit through the front, knit through the back once, and knit through the front and knit through the back twice. There you go. Now we are going to move the second, 2 of the stitches to a second needle, and then we are going to join in the round. Be careful with all the yarns, all the strands of yarn, not to confuse them, not to twist the stitches. Be careful with that. And now we are going to follow the increase instructions just like on the strip number 1. First, we're going to knit all the 4 stitches. 1, 2, and then 3, 4. And as I told you before, we're going to do the increases and the decreases just as on strip number 1. Once we have done that for the second, third, and fourth stripes, and they are all on scraps of yarn or stitch holders, we are going to proceed to weave in the ends in all of our strips, so it's easier to braid or plait them. So you're gonna start by weaving in the ends from the beginning of the stripes, stripes, I'm so sorry, I keep making that mistake. And we are just simply going to thread the tapestry needle with the end and insert the tapestry needle into the stripe, so it's like in between the 4 stitches, like inside the tube, and you're going to insert it as much as you can. There we go. Now we are going to pull from the needle and it's inside, and that's pretty much it. Then you cut it, you pull it a little bit, and then you cut it. You could also do some sort of duplicate stitch, which is how I usually weave in ends on reverse stockinette stitch. So you basically make sure that you are duplicating the knit stitches that you're following, so you make the horizontal dash and then you make sure to do like the vertical dash, so basically all horizontal stitches. Sorry, I keep losing focus on my camera. So now we insert the needle horizontally again, but on a different stitch. And you can see how it looks. There. And so on and so on. We keep doing this with every single loose end that we have to make it very secure, so we don't have any loose ends later. And then we cut the ends, leave them inside the strips, the tubes that we just made, and it would look so pretty. Okay, so now that we have weaved in the ends from each of the strips, we're going to braid the strips. And it's very simple. You just need to put the headband on a plain surface, and we are going to start with the first strip from the right. We're going to pass it over the second strip, then under the third strip to the right, and then over the fourth strip to the right. We're going to do it slowly, there's no hurry. There we go. So over the fourth strip. And from now on, basically, you just have to do the same. The first strip from the right, you're going to pass it over the second strip, then under the third strip, and then over the fourth strip. So remember always to start by the first strip on the right and pass it over, under, and over the next strips. So now over and under, I think, and under. Yeah, perfect. And now you just have to keep going this way until you have braided the whole strips, until the very end of the strips. Keep going, under, over, under, and after a while it's going to become automatic, so that's perfect. Make sure to not pull too much from the strips so the tension is even. So there we are. We finished braiding the plait or plaiting the strips, and now we're going to pick up the remaining, the 8 stitches that we have on hold. So here we just pick 2, and with this second needle we're going to pick another 4 stitches. Just honestly, you don't really need to, there's like no specific order of these stitches. Just make sure that the order is not very messed up. Just pick them up as they are after braiding. And that's pretty much it. There is not much science here involved. I'm going to pick them up, pull. If you did like I did here, which was using a scrap yarn to hold the stitches, and the stitches are a little bit like under, then you can pull the scrap of yarn to pull the stitches out, which is what I'm doing right here. You can also pull them a little bit by hand. There's no hurry, sorry. Just make sure that you can pick them up, that you don't lose any stitch. And there we go. There are the 4 stitches on one of the needles and the 4 stitches on the other needle. Now you can get rid of the scraps of yarn. I am cutting them. Here I have a little bit of a mess, but I'll be able to work it out. Don't you worry. So we are going to try to fix this. There we go. I made a bit of a mess, but we are picking it up. It's all right. These things happen in knitting because we are not machines, we are people. And sometimes we make mistakes, so keep that in mind. Anytime that you're knitting and you made a mistake, you can always fix it. And if you can't, it's not the end of the world. Don't you worry. So then we have 2 stitches. We have our 2 stitches, and damn, I don't know what I did here, but I'm picking them up. I guess I tightened it up way too much when I left them on hold, so don't do that. Sorry, it's unfocused. This camera sometimes does that. This camera sometimes does that. And there we go. Almost. Crap. And what I realized that I did here was that I lost a stitch somewhere, so I ended up knitting it again, and I finally ended up with 4 stitches on each of my needles for a total of 8. And what we are going to do now is knit 1 round of stitches, so we are going to knit 8 stitches. Next we're going to join the yarn and knit 8 stitches. And once we do, we are going to decrease 4 stitches to knit our second tie. So we're knitting the 4 stitches here from one needle, and now make sure to pull from the beginning when you join the yarn. Now we're going to knit the other 4 stitches. And after knitting this round, as I told you before, we are going to decrease 4 stitches. So to do that, we are going to knit 2 together 4 times. And from then on, we're going to knit our tie on for the desired length. In this case, it's 12 inches, so about 25 centimeters. I just did 2 together, and we're going to do them again. Knit 2 together and knit 2 together. Wait, I only knitted 1, so now 2. Make sure that they're on the tip. It's easier to make the decreases when they are there. And there we go. Now we are going to keep on knitting these stitches, preferably the same amount of rounds as we did for the first tie. Not a complete obligation, you know, not absolutely necessary, but it would be better. So there you go. You just have to, once you are done with the second tie, you are going to weave in the ends. And that's it. Your headband, your Bolena headband will be ready for you to rock. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and make sure to visit the pattern blog post on the link below. There is everything specified, materials, how to do everything, like the specific instructions, how many rows you're supposed to work. And if you like this tutorial, make sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video. That always helps. Thank you so much, and have a lovely day, night, whatever. Bye.